Hey, welcome to third grade. I'm your teacher, Mr. Ritenour, and today we have a double lesson. The first part will be some grammar using our Grammar Simple Solutions book, and the second part will be a mystery science video all about staying safe and keeping clean using hand sanitizer. So let's just start with our grammar. So please grab your Grammar Simple Solutions book. Pause the video if you need to go and get that right now. Alright, so let's just dive right in. I'm moving myself to the corner, and you can see on my screen I've got lesson 89 up and ready to go. So, lesson 89 in our Grammar Simple Solutions book. Alright, the suffix est means the most. So, whenever you add est to the end of a word, it means the most of. All right. For example, short with an est would mean the shortest or the most short. So let's add est to hard, and we get hardest. Quiz question: what is the hardest mineral on planet Earth? The answer is a diamond. You might have known that, a diamond. And next word is long plus est. The most long would be the longest. What's the longest river on Earth? It's in Egypt. The answer is the Nile River. The Nile River is the longest river. Moving on to question number 2. Choose the word that completes the sentence. Write it on the line, and then circle the vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel pattern. So the blank struck the target right in the middle. The cactus? That doesn't really make sense. The tissue? Not unless you're blowing your nose in a competition, which would be weird. How about the arrow? That makes a lot of sense. The arrow struck the target. Right in the middle. What's that called whenever the arrow hits the middle? It's called a bullseye. A bullseye. So now we need to circle the vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel pattern. So let's see if we can find the first vowel in the word arrow. Remember, there are 5 vowels. There's A, E, I, O, and U. Or as the Scottish say, A, E, I, O, U. So the first vowel is an A. So we've got the A. Let's just make sure the next 2 are consonants. Consonant, consonant, right? R is a consonant. And then it should be followed up by a vowel, which O is a vowel. So let's go ahead and just circle those 4 letters. That is our vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel pattern. All right, number 3. Add a comma in quotation marks. Anna whispered, "Where did you get those beautiful shoes?" So where do you think we're going to need to put the comma? Good job. Right after the verb here, Anna whispered, comma, "Where did you get those beautiful shoes?" Now, quotation marks, they always go around what the character is saying. So in this case, Anna is whispering. She's starting with the word where, and she's saying, "Where did you get those beautiful shoes?" Do I put the end quote after shoes or after the question mark? Very good. It always goes after the punctuation, so after the question mark. Number 4. You need to acquire 6 points to win the game. What do you think the word acquire means? Well, let's just plug in some of these. You need to get 6 points to win the game. Hey, that kind of makes sense. How about you need to play 6 points to win the game? Kind of, maybe. You need to lose 6 points to win the game. Well, if you lose 6 points, you're not going to win, right? Unless we're talking about golf. But golf, we don't call them points. We call them strokes. So this one for sure is wrong. How about you need to try 6 points to win the game? Maybe if the word was if there was more like try to do something, that would make sense, but it's just the word try, and you need to try 6 points. That's not really making sense. So which one is it? You need to get 6 points, or you need to play 6 points to win the game? What do you think acquire means? It definitely means get. To acquire means to get something. We often use this word when we're talking about like credits for college or school. Like you need to acquire 3 credits to get your degree, right? You need to get 3 credits. So acquire, try to use that word later today. I need to acquire something. Maybe you need to acquire peace with your brother or sister. All right, number 5, choose the correct form of the verb. So just looking underneath here, it's either going to be think or thought. So let's plug both of them in and see which one makes sense. I think you are coming with us, or I thought you were coming with us. I want to focus in on were. Is that present tense? Future tense? Or past tense? What do you think? Were. Well, were is past tense. So I need to get a verb that is past tense as well in this at the beginning of my sentence. So which one of these is past tense? I think or I thought? Which one did you do yesterday? I think yesterday or I thought yesterday? The answer is thought. Past tense. Uh-oh. What am I doing here? I apologize. Undo, 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 undo. I accidentally clicked some things with my elbow. I thought. Woo! So hard to write. Hey, there's a squirrel outside my window. I feel like that movie Up. Squirrel! Okay. Number 6. Choose the noun. Our old car broke down yesterday. So a noun is either a person or a place or a thing. Now, thing can mean an object or an animal. So, which do you think is the noun? Our old car broke down yesterday. Which one of those words is either a person, place, or thing? Our old car broke down yesterday. Well, I know our is definitely not a noun. It's a pronoun. How about old? Is old a person, place, or thing? No, it can describe a person, place, or thing, right? So it's an adjective. How about car? Is car a person, place, or thing? Yeah, car is a thing, so that's going to be my noun. But let's just keep going with this sentence and see if we can figure out every single word. How about broke? Our car broke. Well, breaking or broke, the past tense version, is an action, right? What do we call action words? Very good. That's a verb, right? So that's a verb. How about down? It broke down. How did it break? It broke down. What do we call words that describe verbs? They're called adverbs. I'll just write AV, right? An adverb. When did it break down? Yesterday. When or how tells us that it is an adverb. So we've got a pronoun, an adjective, which I'll write ADJ. Car is our noun, so I'm going to put that up here. That's our answer. A verb, an adverb, and an adverb. Our old car broke down yesterday. Good work, boys and girls. Here's a picture of the car breaking down. No fun. I've had my car break down before. It's the worst. All right, let's move on to the next page. So, A preposition is a word that ties a noun or a pronoun to other words in a sentence. Some common prepositions are listed in the help pages. So we need to write 3 prepositions that begin with the letter A. Let's go all the way to the back of our book here. Let's flip it. I've got mine. And let's see. We're going all the way to the very back, the help pages. Ooh, I found it. Did you find it? It's on page 289. Right in the middle. It says some common prepositions, and it lists them in alphabetical order, which is great because we need to find 3 that start with the letter A. So I'm just going to pick the first 3. So I've got the first one is about, or as the Canadians say, about. It's about time. That's a preposition because it's a direction word, all right? That's what prepositions do. They connect other words. Above. And across. So where is it? It's above the shelf, above, direction. Where are you going? Oh, I'm going across the stream. Okay? Across is also a direction word. Okay, so those are our 3 prepositions that start with the letter A. Let's move on to number 8. Choose the correct form of the adjective. So is it going to be more frightening or frighteninger? Ghosts are more frightening than goblins, or ghosts are frighteninger? Well, one of those is definitely not a word. More frightening is the answer. Now, I said this last time we did a simple solutions lesson. Chances are, 9 out of 10 times, if it sounds wrong, it is wrong. Alright, so ghosts are frighteninger than goblins. Doesn't that just sound a little wrong to your ear? Right? The answer is more frightening. That sounds a lot better, and that's why it's right. Choose the word that completes the sentence. Write it on the line. This year we will study the blank and its surface. Let's plug in beautiful. This year we will study the beautiful and its surface. That makes no sense. This year we will study the brought and its surface. No, thank you. This year we will study the earth and its surface. That makes a lot of sense. The only thing that I'm going to tell you right now is I think we need to capitalize it because it's a planet, it's a proper noun. I know it can go either way, but I think we should always capitalize Earth. So, sorry, simple solutions. Not so simple, I guess. Okay. So, last question, number 10. Ooh, this is a big one. Choose the word that means the same as the underlined words. Rewrite the new sentence on the line below. Oh, wait, I hate whenever we have to do this. Okay, I'll try not to complain. So, example. The cars were called back to the factory because of the brake problem. Uh-oh. Not good. Sounds like Toyota. I had to do that once with one of my trucks. The cars were recalled to the factory because of a brake problem. So the word re can sometimes mean to do something again or back. So recalled to the factory. Let's see if we can fix this sentence. Sally's eyeglasses need adjusting again. There's that again word. We should be thinking re. Because she dropped them. So which one of these makes sense? Sally's eyeglasses need rewriting. Well, the word writing is not adjusting. So this one's definitely wrong. Remaking. Is making adjusting? No. How about adjusting? Is adjusting adjusting? Yes. So it's definitely this one. Readjusting. Here comes the hard part. We have to write it on the line so it makes sense. Sally's eyeglasses need here's where we need to plug in our word. Instead of saying adjusting again, we could say need readjusting. All right, so I'm just gonna draw that right there so I save some space. Sally's eyeglasses need readjusting because she dropped them. Dropped them. Silly Sally. Hold on to your glasses. Okie dokie. So, well done. Good job. You can close your book or flip it to the next page so you're ready for next lesson. And we are going to switch gears here. We are going to move on to some science. And I've got an exciting video that kind of pertains to the situation going on right now with coronavirus. It's a video about hand sanitizer and what hand sanitizer actually does. So I learned quite a bit whenever I watched this video. I've always used hand sanitizer, not really knowing how it works. But now that I've watched this video, I understand why it's so important to sanitize after, we're playing around with other kids or playing around in areas that might have germs. So you're going to learn a little bit about germs and what to do about them. I'm going to go back to the corner. And here we go. Let's see what Doug has to say from Mystery Science.
That was a real sneeze. I have a cold right now, but did you notice I sneezed into my elbow? That way I didn't spread germs, like if I'd sneezed into my hand instead. Someone named Ellie has a question about germs. Let's give her a call now. Hi, Ellie.
Hi, Doug. I have a question for you. How does hand sanitizer kill germs?
That's a great question. Whenever you're sick and you sneeze, you've probably got lots of adults telling you to use hand sanitizer. You're always told it kills germs. It even says so on the bottle. But how does it work? How does hand sanitizer kill germs? After all, when you rub hand sanitizer on your hands, it's not like you can see it working. Germs are too small to be seen. In fact, for a long time, doctors and scientists didn't even know that germs existed. They tried all sorts of things to stop sicknesses from spreading. But without knowing about germs, that was really hard to do. The first big step forward was the invention of this, the microscope. The very first microscope was invented in the 1600s by someone named Antony van Leeuwenhoek. Now, you might notice how it didn't look much like the microscopes we have today. But having a microscope meant it was the first time that we could see things as small as germs. Van Leeuwenhoek took his first microscope and placed a drop of pond water on the lens. He was amazed by what he saw. It looked like this. You see all those little things swimming around? He called them little animals. He still didn't know that some of these little things could cause people to get sick. Eventually, though, other scientists figured out that these little animals aren't animals at all. They're germs. As microscopes have gotten better, we've discovered that there's all different kinds of germs. Some germs are really weird looking, like this one called an amoeba. It's like this microscopic blob that moves around. But one of the most common germs looks like this. They're called bacteria. Personally, I always thought they kind of look like little hot dogs. Not all bacteria make you sick. Some of them are.
All right, so I just paused the video really quick because I want you to think back to when Dr. McCaskey, the orthodontist, came into our school. Do you remember him showing us a picture of some bacteria found in your mouth? He put it on his microscope and zoomed in so you could see it on his little television. But if you remember that, those bacteria looked a lot like the bacteria on the screen, and they were actually moving around. Does anyone remember what type of bacteria we found in our mouth? It starts with a P. The answer is plaque. We were looking at plaque, which is a type of bacteria that will rot away the outside of your teeth, the enamel part. Okay, back to our video.
Aren't bad at all. But if you've ever had strep throat, that's a sickness caused by a type of bacteria. This is what strep bacteria looks like under a microscope. Here's another common germ. It's known as a virus. Just like bacteria, there are lots of different kinds of viruses. The virus on the left is the one that causes the flu. But not all viruses look like that. The ones on the right here, to me, almost look like little alien robots. It's so easy for us to carry around these microscopic bacteria, but...
All right, I just want to pause here, and I want you to think about right now, the reason why we're all stuck inside is because of a virus. A specific virus that we could call the coronavirus. Technically, it's called COVID-19, which is like the scientific name for it. So the coronavirus probably looks something like this. These weird alien-looking like things. Now, they are dangerous because they can multiply very quickly and they can hurt your body, all right? That's what a virus is. It's a dangerous germ that will get into your body and do damage to it. Sometimes viruses like the flu you can protect yourself from them by getting what we call an immunization or a vaccine. That's kind of like your defense mechanism. You prepare by getting a vaccine, that way you don't get the flu. We're currently working on a vaccine for coronavirus. So I've heard a lot of good things from our scientists and our doctors that we're getting a lot closer to finding a way to get rid of these kind of viruses. So let's get back to our video here and we can learn more.
Not all viruses look like that. The ones on the right here, to me, almost look like little alien robots. It's so easy for us to carry around these microscopic bacteria and viruses all over our hands without even knowing it. Scientists realize that if we could discover ways to kill or remove some of these germs, then we could stop sickness from spreading. Hand sanitizer is one of the ways that we can kill germs. But how does it work? Well, how do you think hand sanitizer kills germs? Now would be a good time to pause the video and discuss. Here's a clue. Think about how your hands feel after you've used it, especially if you use it a lot.
All right, so how do you think hand sanitizer kills germs? Go ahead and either write it down or think out loud. How does hand sanitizer kill germs? I'm going to give you like 15 seconds here. Just think. Okay, so since I can't call on you, I'm just going to throw out some possible thoughts. Number one is maybe the hand sanitizer kills germs because it burns. If you've ever used hand sanitizer and you had like an open cut, you feel like a burning sensation. Another thought would be that it has something in it that attacks germs and kills them. Another possible answer is that hand sanitizer it is made of a chemical that specializes in like either removing the germs or killing them. What did you think? Well, let's find out what the answer is. How does hand sanitizer actually kill germs?
Okay, you ready? Well, you might have noticed that when you use hand sanitizer, especially if you use it a lot, it can leave your hands feeling really dry. That's because hand sanitizer is mostly made of a substance called alcohol. Alcohol is a substance with many interesting properties. One of these properties is that alcohol is really good at drying things out.
So the alcohol that they're talking about is not like the kind like in alcohol that you drink, that adults drink, like beer or wine. This is a different type of alcohol. This is the kind that you might rub on a cut that you have to clean it out.
Alcohol dries up the oils on your skin, which is what makes your hands feel dry. But while it's doing that, it's also drying up the germs on your skin. When germs get dried out, their outer layer gets broken open, instantly killing the germ. Now, keep in mind, if your hands actually have dirt on them, using hand sanitizer isn't going to get the dirt off. For that, you still need to wash your hands with soap and water. Plus, washing your hands with soap and water also washes germs away. So if you have sensitive skin, or you just don't want your hands to feel dried out, you can wash your hands instead of using hand sanitizer. So in summary, hand sanitizer kills germs because it's mostly made of alcohol, and alcohol can break open the outer layer of germs, like bacteria or viruses. Doctors recommend using hand sanitizer whenever you don't have soap and water to wash your hands, so that you can keep from spreading germs. That's all for this week's question. Thanks, Ellie, for asking it. Now, for the next episode, I reached into my question jar and found 3...
Okay, we're not gonna reach into his question jar, but if you're paying attention, you should know why hand sanitizer kills germs. So please get yourself some kind of piece of paper. You can even be your Simple Solutions book, like an old lesson. But we're gonna write down a couple of sentences here to answer our question: how does hand sanitizer kill germs? So pause the video if you need to get a piece of paper or a whiteboard or a pen or pencil, and let's write the answer down to this question. So, how does hand sanitizer kill germs? How does it kill germs? Well, let's think about this question. We want to answer it by giving, sorry, I just drew a blank. We need to answer this question fully. So we need to be thinking of our acronym ACE, all right? We need to think, how can we ace this question? How can we answer it, give evidence, and elaborate? So, how does hand sanitizer kill germs? Let's start by answering the question. Hand sanitizer kills germs by what? What did they say in the video? What does it do? Remember, there's a picture of that guy's hands that used the hand sanitizer a lot, how they're all like cracked and stuff. So how does hand sanitizer kill germs? Very good. By drying them out. That's how hand sanitizer kills germs. So we need to give some evidence, all right? We need to start with one reason hand sanitizer kills germs by drying them out. One reason it dries out the germs is because it has alcohol in it. Remember? The alcohol is what dries out the germs and kills them. Now, let's elaborate. This is significant because, I'm going to slow down so you have time to write. This is significant because, why is it significant that germs get dried out? Like, what does that do? Well, this is significant because germs die when they are dried out. All right. So pause the video if you need more time to write. Let's go back through and let's look at my answer, all right? It's so important, boys and girls, that you read what you wrote before you just say, hey, I'm done. So let's see if I answered my question, the A part of the ACE. So how does hand sanitizer kill germs? Hand sanitizer kills germs by drying them out. Boom, answered the question. C, where's my evidence? One reason it dries out the germs is because it has alcohol in it. Boom, there's my evidence from the actual clip. One reason it dries out germs is because it has alcohol in it. Now I need to elaborate. Why is this significant? Well, this is significant because germs die when they are dried out. Cha-ching! I didn't see any spelling mistakes, did you? Did you see any run-on sentences? I didn't either. So I was able to answer, check, cite, check, and elaborate. I'm going to be able to remember now that I've written this out that hand sanitizer works because it dries out germs because it has alcohol in it, okay? So now you can tell your parents or your brothers or sisters, you can tell them, hey, it's important to use hand sanitizer because it kills germs. And whenever they say, how does it even do that? You can tell them. It's because it dries them out because it's made up of alcohol. All right, good job, boys and girls. So I am going to pull up another activity for us to do. But right now, if you could pause the video, do some stretches, relax, take a little break, all right, and then come back because I don't want you to stare at the screen for an hour straight. So go ahead and take a little break, and I'll see you in a little bit. All right, welcome back. I hope you had a good break. We are going to dive right into some common sense. One thing that I've said many times this school year is it's not just important to learn about math and reading and science and writing. It's also important to have some common sense, all right? Wisdom is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than knowledge. So let's look at today's common sense lesson. I'm going to put myself in the corner. So lesson 23 was last week's, or actually, sorry, 2 weeks ago, where we talked about never spend all your money. Always keep a little just in case of an emergency. Today's, which you don't have to write down unless you want to on a notebook or something. Today's lesson, number 24. Never complain when you lose. Say good game to your opponent always. If they do not reciprocate, that means if they don't share good sportsmanship back, then just don't say anything, all right? Now, I've been in some situations as a kid when I was competing in sports where it felt like I was cheated or robbed out of a win. And it was easy to get upset, look like this kid up here, whenever I lost. Because losing hurts, it sucks, it's not fun. But you know what's more important than losing or winning? Being a good human being, right? Having good sportsmanship. Because a game will end and life will move on, but your character will always stick with you. Whenever you lose, the other person might not be a good sport back. They might brag in your face. They might not want to shake your hand. Things might have gotten a little physical in the game that you're playing, especially if it was sports. And you might not really like that person, and they might not like you. Still, it's important to swallow your pride, be a man or a woman, and say good game. Because your character is more important than winning or losing. And I use the word character multiple times this school year. Character is who you are when no one's looking, right? It's the kind of person that you are. Not just your actions, but what kind of values you have. So I challenge you, next time you're in some kind of contest, whether it's with your brother or sister or with a friend or with an enemy, do your best to say good game if you lose or win. And if you do lose, not to pout and be all grumpy and look like this kid right here, okay? Just be grateful that you got the chance to play. Okay. So let's look at one more common sense lesson. It is a piggyback lesson off of lesson 24. This is the opposite. If you win, never brag. Thank your opponent for a good contest by saying good game. If they do not reciprocate, remember that word means share, your sportsmanship, say nothing. Poor sportsmanship will make you a loser no matter how many times you win. So, I think I kind of already explained it with lesson 24. Being a good winner is just as important as being a good loser, all right? I like to say that we are gracious in our loss and humble in our victory. We don't jump up and down and celebrate and go, in your face, we won, yeah, we're so much better than you. No, we don't do that, all right? Whenever we win, we say, hey, good game, you guys did a great job, all right? You did wonderful, you tried your best, and thank you so much for playing. That's the kind of person that I want you to be, someone who's a good winner and someone who's not a sore loser. All right, so those are our common sense lessons. Now I would like to switch gears, and we're going to talk about some U.S. history. So get yourself a notebook if you don't have one already. We are going to take some notes here and learn a little bit about the Civil War. So it's loading here on my screen. If you remember, where we left off last week was right at the setting of the stage for the Civil War. So there was the big gold rush, and now our country is starting to crack right down the middle, literally down the middle between the North and the South. So while this loads here, get your pen or pencil ready. I believe we're on lesson 20, I want to say 25. Yeah, lesson 25, just like common sense. All right, so the Civil War. Immediately after Lincoln is elected president, I'm just going to highlight as I read here. I want you to read along with me. So immediately after Lincoln is elected president, the South splits from the U.S., forming their own nation called remember from last week, the Confederate States of America, because they wanted to continue the institution of slavery. The Union led by President, do you remember who was the president of the U.S. at the time? He had a long, big top hat. Good job, President Lincoln. So, President Lincoln will not allow the South to leave. So he's not going to let them become their own country. Unfortunately, words were not enough to solve the deep-rooted issues between the North and South. In 1861, the first shots of the Civil War were fired by Southern soldiers on Union troops at Fort Sumter, South Carolina. Now, a fort is like a military base. It's got walls and cannons. Usually there's a lot of guns and ammunition stored there. So the Southern soldiers wanted to take that fort. It would strengthen their position in the South. So that battle, or the battle, was the first of over 50 major battles that would take the lives of over, any thoughts on how many people died? 720,000 people. Americans. Brother fought brother, and cousin fought cousin. Both sides suffered enormous loss and heartache. President Lincoln never wavered on his decision to end slavery. So wavered would be like, I think I'm changing my mind. No, Lincoln was always adamant that slavery needed to be abolished or ended. He nearly lost the support of the American people in the war, but he stayed true to his beliefs the whole way through. So pause for a second from reading. Lincoln almost lost the Civil War. There was a point where the North was losing almost every single battle, and the American people were getting sick of the war, and they were starting to accept the idea that the South would be its own country. But Lincoln, he never gave up. All right, that's one of the reasons why he is always considered in the top 2, at least, greatest presidents, if not the greatest president in U.S. history. All right, so keep reading with me here. With the help of General Ulysses S. Grant, right, that's Evan's middle name, right? Evan Grant. The Union finally won the war in 1865. So, pause. General Grant, he kind of saved Lincoln and the Union. He was he was a veteran of the Mexican War, which we talked about a few weeks ago, and Grant really he had a very bold strategy. All right, he was very I don't know what the right word is, aggressive, and he was the first and only general to be able to actually start defeating the Confederates. And there's a lot of awesome little neat facts about General Grant. I read a biography on him a couple summers ago. He was kind of a strange guy, and there was a point in his life where, he was really, really down in the dumps and depressed, and a lot of people criticized him because he was kind of an alcoholic and secretly, but whenever it came time to get the job done, he was able to do it. And the American people remembered that, and that's why he ended up becoming president later on. So let's keep reading. Grant signed a treaty with Confederate General Robert E. Lee at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia. So the town's name is Appomattox. I've actually been there and sat at the exact table that Robert E. Lee and Grant signed the treaty. A treaty is a document that says, hey, we're done fighting. Both sides agree, all right? It's like waving the white flag. Let's keep reading. The war lasted 4 years and cost everyone, especially the South, dearly. Some of the more famous battles include Bull Run, Gettysburg, Antietam, Shiloh, Vicksburg, Fredericksburg, and Chancellorsville. So let's pause for a second. A lot of these battles are in the South. If you remember, the North is the one that are declaring war on the South. So the North, the Union, is trying to get the South to come back and be part of the U.S. That's why a lot of the battles were fought on Southern soil. Now, the most famous battle that was fought in the North actually took place in Pennsylvania. Do you know which one of these battles here? Bull Run, Gettysburg, Antietam, Shiloh, Vicksburg, Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville. Which one of those battles actually happens in Pennsylvania? Does anyone know? Well, the answer is Gettysburg, right? Gettysburg, the bloodiest battle. More people died at Gettysburg than any other battle in the Civil War. That actually happened in Pennsylvania in a town called Gettysburg. I highly recommend you go. It's one of the coolest places. You have to go to their visitor center. There's all kinds of stuff to do. You can see the battlefield. Usually they even have reenactments so you can watch them fake fight. Really cool stuff. So anyway, a side note, I was born actually in Fredericksburg, which is this one right here. And I grew up in a town called Manassas, which the North called Bull Run. Same thing. So that's just some of my own personal history with the Civil War. Okay, read along with me, please. During the war, President Lincoln gave many great speeches. His most famous was the blank address. Anyone know? It's named after that PA battle. Very good. The Gettysburg Address, where he spoke the famous lines, "Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal." Lincoln also gave his Emancipation Proclamation, in which he declared the slaves free. So that's a biggie to remember here. The Emancipation Proclamation was a fancy way of saying he freed the slaves. All right, so this famous line, 'Fourscore and 7 years ago,' a score literally means 20 years. So 'fourscore,' let's do the math. 4 times 20 equals, yep, good job, equals 80. And 7 years, so what's 80 plus 7? Good job, that's 87. So let me scroll down here. Oops. So 'fourscore and 7 years ago literally means 87 years ago. Our founding fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty, all right, freedom. So let's do the math here. Let's subtract 87 from the year that he gave this speech, which would be 1860. I want to say 63. I want to say 63. All right, so let's just subtract 87 here. So 3 minus 7, more on the floor. Go next door. So the 6 is going to become a 5. What's 13 minus 7? Nice, 6. All right, 5 minus 8, more on the floor. Go next door. I'm going to steal 1 from the 8, make it a 7, and make the 5 into 15. What's 15 minus 8? Nice, 7. And 7 minus blank space is 7, and 1 minus blank space is 1. So if you subtract 87 from the date that he gave that speech, it gives you this, 1776. What do we know happened in 1776, boys and girls? What major declaration, that's your hint, happened in 1776? Yeah, the Declaration of Independence, right? July 4th, 1776. All right, Independence Day, our country's birthday. So Lincoln is literally saying that 87 years ago, our country began, and it was born out of liberty or freedom, that all men are created equal, including black men and women, right? Including slaves. Slavery is no longer legal after President Lincoln and Congress add I believe it's the 13th Amendment. So this big speech, the Emancipation Proclamation, he basically said, hey, if you're black and you live in America, guess what? You're now free, all right? Even if you live in the South, you're free. Okay, so let's take a look here. What do I have? Oh, yes. This is a picture of Lincoln. It's actually the speech that he gave. So let's see if it works here on my computer. I'm not sure if it will. I don't know if it's going to work. Oh, I think I hear it.
407 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
All right, so there you have it. There's Lincoln. Now it's not actually Lincoln giving the speech, okay? They didn't have audio recording devices back in the 1800s, but you get the idea. So let me put you back, Mr. Lincoln. I'll turn you on. All right, so let's watch a couple videos here about the Civil War. Oh, the video is not available. I apologize. I hate whenever they do that. This one I think is off the History Channel.
Days of attack and counterattack.
Yes. Okay, so
Robert E. Lee is about to launch the offensive that will decide the Battle of Gettysburg.
Okay. So what we're about to watch is one of the most decisive moments of the Civil War, okay? What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, this is a moment that's going to change the war completely. Right now, I'm going to set the stage for you. The South is kind of kicking the North's butt, which is not good, because the South is the side of slavery. So the South is getting very bold and very brave. And after beating the North in a bunch of battles, they decide that they're going to march all the way up into the North and try to take Gettysburg. So Gettysburg is in Pennsylvania, southern Pennsylvania, and it's kind of a stalemate, which means like both sides, like it's kind of like a tie right now between the North and the South. And the battle lasts 2 full days. And during the second day, Robert E. Lee he puts it all out there, so to speak. He risks it for the biscuit, as we always say in room 304. And unfortunately for him, but fortunately for our country, he makes a crucial mistake, and not really he himself, but one of his commanding officers. So you'll see it's a famous battle of Gettysburg, and it's a famous part of the battle called Pickett's Charge, and you can see it if you go to Gettysburg and visit. I highly recommend it whenever the travel restrictions are down and we're allowed to go out and about again. But Pickett's Charge, it's a crucial era for the South, and it actually really, you could say, changes the war completely and leads eventually to the South losing not just the Battle of Gettysburg, but losing the whole Civil War. All right, so here's the video.
And the course of the war. He's sending in 12,000 soldiers, anchored by George Pickett's division, his only fresh troops. Their mission, attack the Union center and cut the Army of the Potomac in two.
Lee's pushing all of the chips to the middle of the table because he knows this is the last chance he's going to have.
This was a calculated decision. It was well thought out. It had a reasonable chance of success.
Leading one of the rebel brigades, General Joe Davis, aristocrat, slave owner, his uncle, Confederate President Jefferson Davis. His hometown of Vicksburg, Mississippi, is under Union siege. To weaken Union defenses, 160 Confederate cannons move into position, a line of artillery 2 miles long. Against them, 100 Union cannons. It's 87 degrees, brutally humid. It's the largest artillery barrage ever in the Western Hemisphere.
reaction would shake the internals. The organs would actually, in some cases, rip apart. The membranes within the ear would tear. This would create blood streaming down the sides of these artillery units' faces.
The artillery barrage can be heard in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 40 miles away. To lure Lee into thinking he's crippled the Union's artillery, Union commanders silenced their guns. By 3 p.m., Confederate artillery also stops firing.
An eerie quiet reigned over the battlefield. All the smoke from that bombardment still sat on the windless day. The Yankees expected a huge attack from the Southerners. The Southerners knew what they were about to do and what they went up against, and it must have been an intense moment as they stared at each other across the fields.
The Confederate...
All right, so let's pause the video there just to go over what's happening here on the battlefield. So you've got two lines of soldiers. You've got the North and you've got the South, and they're both shooting cannons at each other. Now, it said that the Confederates, their line of artillery was 2 miles long. That'd be like a cannon side by side all the way from Margarita King all the way to the elementary school, right? That is a long, long line of cannons. And the cannons are shooting off consistently, just deafening the soldiers' ears. So bad that they're literally just bleeding from their ears. It's so loud. And like the one historian said, some of these soldiers, their insides are literally ripping apart because of how loud the vibrations are. And they said that you could hear it 40 miles away in Harrisburg, which would be the equivalent of if there was a battle happening in Cranberry and you're able to hear it in Mercer, right? That's a long ways away. So we're talking about some extreme warfare, especially for the time. So you're about to watch the crucial error that happens in this battle for the Southern side, the Confederates. So see if you can figure out what they did wrong.
Command believes it's safe to send in their troops. Time to set in motion one of the iconic battles of the Civil War. Joe Davis and his men move out. Part of a rebel assault that stretches a mile. To reach Union lines, they must cross 1,700 yards of open meadow, then race up a hill. But unknown to the Confederate leaders, the Union artillery still has plenty of firepower. They're just waiting for the rebels to come into range. Joe Davis and his men are marching into a barrage of artillery hell. First, the ordnance rifle cannon, made with 4.5-inch strips of wrought iron. Invented just 2 years earlier, they're tough and reliable, designed with a 3-inch grooved bore for greater range and deadly accuracy. The ordnance delivers shells that explode on impact. And time shells and shrapnel that burst in the air over the enemy's heads. One shot can take out 10 men.
Being on the receiving end of one of these projectiles from the rifled ordnance would be completely devastating. You don't know what's coming at you. You can only imagine. And then all of a sudden, the guys that you are standing next to are gone. Vaporized.
Stopping to return fire in an open field is suicide. And there's no point. Their muskets don't have the range. Davis knows his men have to keep moving.
We were growing thinner at every step. Under this destructive fire, which commanded our front and left with fatal effect. The troops displayed...
Alright, so pause for a second. Just picture the amount of courage it would take to walk and keep walking across that field when you know that it's just raining down shells and literally the people next to you are getting killed. It's just almost unimaginable the amount of bravery on both sides of the Civil War. All right, so for those of you that didn't catch it, the reason why the North was so successful is because they pretended that they were out of ammo. They stopped shooting cannon fire, and that's whenever the Southern side, the Confederates, they decided to charge through this field. But really, it was just a trick. It was a trap because the North still had all kinds of ammo left for their cannons, and that's what you're seeing right now. Is the Confederates are just getting bombarded, and they have no choice. They have to keep going. They can't stop, or else they'll be sitting targets. So they just keep heading straight at the enemy. All right, back to our video.
Great coolness. We're well in hand and move steadily forward, regularly closing up the gaps made in their ranks.
About halfway to Cemetery Ridge, the rebels come into range of the older-style smooth-barreled Napoleon cannon. The most popular artillery in the Civil War. It fires 4 kinds of ammunition, including solid 12-pound cannonballs. Balanced in front of advancing troops, they can mow down a whole row of men like bowling balls.
It's hard to conceive how men can keep going in the face of such opposition. The level of courage is intense and large.
Joe Davis and his men are now 400 yards from the Union guns. Canister range. Canister is the most devastating weapon of the day. Basically tin cans packed with 28 iron balls. The casing explodes, spraying the iron balls into advancing troops at hundreds of yards per second.
Canister shot just made that cannon a gigantic shotgun, and it would mow down up to 20 guys at a time, if not more. Guys would be completely tore apart. Limbs, heads, arms, legs, and it was so demoralizing for the other soldiers to witness such an event.
Davis regroups at a dirt road, the Emmetsburg Road, 200 yards from the Union line. They're now within range of enemy muskets. One fence they're using for cover takes 836 rifle shots. The brigade to the left of Davis hasn't caught up, exposing his flank and opening a hole in the rebel line. few men under Davis make it to the Union line and plant their flag on a stone wall. A brave but futile gesture. The rest of the unit under Davis cracks and retreats. Rebel troops under George Pickett managed to break through and surge over the wall. Union gunners fire point blank.
Now it's to the point of hand-to-hand combat. This is as brutal as it gets. It is literally with musket butts and using fighting knives, using the bayonets by themselves as thrusting weapons.
The rebels overrun 3 cannons, but they're soon overwhelmed. It's Lee's last chance for victory at Gettysburg, but it's not enough.
They almost cut the Union Army in two. They almost did it. Robert E. Lee's great moment of promise quickly turned into his greatest defeat by far.
The entire rebel line retreats.
They are compelled, forced to retire across that very ground in which they had made this brave, gallant charge.
More than half of the force that began Pickett's charge is dead, wounded, captured, or missing. Lee loses a third of his army at Gettysburg. It's the bloodiest battle ever fought on American soil. More than 50,000 casualties. Robert E. Lee's bold invasion of the North has failed.
All right. The biggest takeaway from that video that we just watched on Pickett's charge in Gettysburg is that the South, the Confederates, they made a crucial mistake by trying to come north, and you can see obviously the blood and just how devastating of a war the Civil War was. Gettysburg is the bloodiest battle in all of U.S. history. 50,000 people died on one battlefield. That's just so many people, and it's just tragic. But as you'll see as we continue through U.S. history, the Civil War was necessary. It was a very big turning point, a good turning point for the United States, because it ended up helping unite our country actually, rather than keep it divided. Because after the Civil War, there's no more slavery, and you'll see as we continue through U.S. history that it really took a lot of brave generals like Grant and leaders like Lincoln to keep the North from losing that war. So anyway, I'm going to go back here to our smart notebook. Okay, so as you could see, the Battle of Gettysburg was famous, and it was very important for the North to win that battle, or else almost without a doubt the Civil War would have ended with the South winning. So next time we will continue past the Civil War, and we'll move on to what happens right afterward with President Lincoln.